Oh man, did I get a lot of questions following the video for the GSP 500, so I managed to pull some strings and I've got some answers. This video is going to address the following question. How does the GSP 500 sound with the GSX 1000, and do I still favor it over the Game 1? Can you really swap out the ear pads with the GSP 600, and does it affect the sound at all? How is the volume performance when using this thing with the PS4 or the Xbox One? If any of those questions apply to you, stick around. Right, so if somehow you stumbled upon this video before you've seen my review for the GSP 500, I highly recommend you start with that, and you can do so right here. Now, I know a lot of you have adopted Sennheiser as your PC audio platform of choice, and rightly so. So how does the GSP 500 sound with the GSX 1000? To put it mildly, it sounds so awesome. Can I say that on YouTube? Predictably, it, just like the GSP 600, sounds like it was specifically tuned for the GSX 1000, and the different EQ modes make great use of the drivers here. In Far Cry 5, the suppressed 50 cal has a really substantial thump underneath its little sniper sound. It's mixed perfectly, and it's a really satisfying way to punctuate a headshot. The bass is very present in the mix, and it stops just short of being overpowering and threatening to muddy up the mix. The vehicles can sound really low and throaty as well. Throaty? Is that In game mode, footsteps and directional cues are really pronounced in the mix, and it sucks virtually all the bass out there so as not to distract you with anything unnecessary. Now, as for the simulated 7.1, it is very impressive in Far Cry 5. Now, granted, that's a very modern audio engine, so I also went back and tested it with some older stuff like Skyrim and Shadow of Mordor, and wow. And as for the mic, well, I'll let you be the judge.
So you're hearing the GSP 500 being fed directly to the GSX 1000, and wow, I am super impressed with this mic input. First things first, I did have to knock down this input level to about 60% because it was just way too hot coming in. There was a lot of power behind this thing. I'm really impressed with the fullness of this sound. To me, it sounds really close to the Realtek onboard, but we had the noise reduction disengaged. This has pretty great noise reduction. Those are Cherry MX Browns you're hopefully not hearing too much of in the back. When you engage that noise reduction on the Realtek onboard, it just becomes a squelchy, compressed mess.
Now, while I got you here, here's a little something about the GSX 1000 that viewer Peter McDonough commented on, and this got right by me the first time I looked at this unit. When you want all the simulated 7.1 surround features of the GSX, you'll actually need to assign this in Windows as a 7.1 device. When you do that, it limits the audio output to 16-bit and 48 Hertz. But if you assign this as a stereo device, you can then go in and crank this thing all the way up to 24-bit, 96 Hertz quality audio. You'll know you've got it right when the display on the GSX says HD next to the 2.0, and all the other controls like EQ, reverb, etc. get completely locked out. Gaming with this mode enabled in Far Cry 5, I could not pick out a noticeable difference in audio quality. And it came with the unfortunate side effect of greatly reducing the overall volume level in a game that already has kind of an unusually low volume level. Even with the GSX and the headphones dimed out all the way, it just wasn't loud enough. So I gave it a whirl in Doom as well, and it certainly sounded clear, but it also brought a flat EQ to a game that, at least for me, the bass really adds a lot to the level of immersion. So my biggest takeaway here is that this is intended to be a true to reference sound, presumably for music listening. So for music, in theory, it should sound incredible. But for me, I actually prefer the 16-bit mode, because in that mode, you're able to retain the EQ settings. The music EQ brings more bass to recordings than the 2.0 HD mode. Now, depending on your musical taste, that bass could start to sound a little muddy, in which case I would default to the HD mode. Now, I wouldn't advise it, but based on the loudness of the recording, it's completely possible to listen to music with both the DAC and the headphones completely dimed out. And it's the same story with the Game 1, so neither headset has the advantage over the other one here. To me, there's no question that the GSX 1000 and the GSP 500 are the perfect combo for gaming. Based on the fact that the headset sounds like it's literally specifically tuned for that DAC, and the quality of the 7.1 on offer here, this has easily become my favorite audio setup specifically for gaming. While looking at this headset initially, I expressed a theory that maybe one day I'd be able to take the amazing ear pads from the GSP 600 and use them on the GSP 500. Now, I didn't have both pair in-house at the time I filmed this video, so I reached out to the only man I knew that could help. Dimitri from Hardware Canucks. As you can see from the footage he sent over, not only is this possible, but it's a game changer. He stated that the softer padding with memory foam feels incredible with the lighter clamping force of the GSP 500. And as for it changing the sound quality, he said it was kind of strange having a super seal, yet an open back. Sound concentration was more present, the bass is insanely good. So there you have it, I'm stoked. Big thanks to Dimitri for the assist and the crispy footage. You, sir, are the man. A little aside here about hanging these guys. If you order directly from Sennheiser, they'll usually throw in a single hanger. Looks to be a pretty high quality and it looks pretty sharp, but if you have multiples at your desk like I do, you've probably investigated the idea of an under-desk hanger. This is the one I bought first. This is the Anchor from Elevation Lab. It's about 11 bucks, it's made from like a really dense silicone, and it's probably easily the best-selling under-desk dual hanger on Amazon. The headbands on the GSP series headsets are too wide for this. I really recommend stepping up to this beast. This is the Truss from Brainwaves. This is an all-metal undermount hanger. It's plenty wide to fit the GSP, and in my mind will protect your investment a little better than the Anchor will. Now, as far as console performance, I tested these with the PS4, and I can confirm that even with the volume maxed all the way out in the system, there's just not enough volume here to do these justice. Compared to a closed back set like the HyperX Cloud Alpha, I'd venture to say you're looking at almost a full 6 dB drop going to the GSP 500s. I also tested out the Game Ones just to see if it was an open back kind of thing. Those fared a little bit better, but nothing to write home about. All in all, I really can't endorse these for the PS4. As for the Xbox One, volume was no issue at all. I tested these with the Xbox One S, and both in Gears 4 and Forza Horizon 3, these sounded absolutely insane. I didn't even run them at full volume. The one thing I can say is I wish there was a little bit more bass in the mix, but these are open backed and I prefer a bass heavier mix. All in all, they get the nod for Xbox One. So the real question is, with the GSX 1000, how did it stack up against the Game Ones, and which one should you buy? Honestly, my stance hasn't changed a whole lot. The GSP 500 sounds better. It's a bold statement because audio is so subjective, but what I'll tell you is that the 500s just sound like a better version of the Game Ones. It's not a completely different mix that favors different frequency bands. It's got the same tonal character as the Game One, it just delivers it better. The bass is fuller. You don't get any rumble at high volume when you dime them out like I saw with the Game Ones. The mids and highs are more crisp, more defined, and more detailed. If you already own the Game Ones, it's tough for me to tell you to run out and upgrade. The Game Ones are still a seriously solid gaming headset. The reality is that you might not find enough of a difference in audio quality to justify the upgrade. I mean, I do, but I'm pretty loose with the money. If you haven't bought either headset yet, go straight for the GSP 500s. And if you already own the GSX 1000, going with the 500s is a no-brainer to me. These definitely get a strong endorsement from me, and those of you who already bought a GSX 1000, you're in for a real treat. It is absolutely killer. Well, that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up. Immersion. Immersion? It's a weird ass word.